Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. We are on the road this week, so I'm not in studio, but that does not mean that we are not going to do another episode of the MHP Show where we talk about mobile home parks, investing in them. We explain it. We talk about the operational pitfalls of it and, the crazy stuff that inevitably goes on in a mobile home park investment. And I'm sure our guest today can probably share some of those stories as well. But I've got Mr. Walter Johnson with Sonos Capital here with me today. How you doing, man?
Things are good, man. We just closed on a park. We're looking at another park, so things are busy, extremely busy, but they're good.
Yeah, awesome. And where was the park?
Both of them are actually in Arizona. Yeah.
Oh, cool. How's the I'm not too familiar with the Arizona market. Are you like in Scottsdale, Phoenix area or other?
Yeah, Scottsdale, Phoenix area. Arizona market for mobile home parks. I think I read something, I would say about 2 months ago, and the top 10 of buying mobile home parks, Arizona hit, or Phoenix actually hit that list.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine you're getting the same kind of population migration there that Florida's getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure some of those things are probably in your favor. And I mean, it's warmer there, I think.
Yeah.
How cold are you in Phoenix?
Yeah, no, it's getting warm now. I think it's breaching 100 degrees, and it's May 31st.
Yeah, no, it's just hot and muggy here in Florida now too. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're getting a lot of migration. I think 1 out of every 6 license plates is California.
Wow. Well, awesome, man. Congratulations on the closing. So just to, kind of kick it off here. So have you always been a real estate investor or did you do something before that?
I was always, I would say my adult years, since I was 19 or so, 18, 19, I wanted to get into it. So I think at 19, 20, I started off to be honest with you, actually a receptionist at a mortgage company. And I did that to actually learn how mortgages worked and how financing worked and processing. So I drew docs, I was a processor, I was a closer before I actually even became a mortgage broker. So I knew about this finance thing, but the whole goal was actually to learn about mortgages, to buy to buy homes and investment properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So did you start off buying investment properties or like how did that go?
I bought my first single family home at 22. So 2001, right? I was looking at buying apartment buildings. I was still studying those, but I didn't have the capital. But I did have the capital my ex girlfriend at the time, she loaned me $1,500 to buy a brand new house, new build. And that was kind of my way into investing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think everybody, most people that I've talked to, you're bootstrapping your way in your first deal. However that is. I basically fell into the deal. I got in via sweat equity, and you got to do what you got to do if you want to get in the game.
I mean, it's literally bootstrapping. It was like, hey, you go to dinner for $100, or you actually go buy a toilet from Home Depot to put in this rental. It was really those type of decisions you actually make, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Or you don't go out on a Friday night is because contractors come in at 7 a.m. to do something, and so you actually have to just sacrifice your time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think newer real estate investors, they don't understand that it does take some kind of grit and risk. I have some people in my program now, and they're like, well, hey, what if I do all this due diligence and on this deal we got under contract and it doesn't close? I'm like, well, that happens, right? It's kind of a commit first and figure the rest out later sort of business to a degree, even when you're raising capital.
Yes.
Right. And I think some people, they can't stomach that. They can't stomach the fact of taking risk. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Without risk, there's no opportunity. Without the opportunity, if it's not an opportunity, then it really doesn't have any risk to it. And so you actually have to take a risk. We actually had a park, and there's no internet at the park, and we actually will put in internet. But so there's no way to actually put in an office phone, and I don't want to go into my personal phone. And
yeah.
And that's a risk, right? So somebody's like, well, how do you take calls, and how do the tenants call you? Well, you figure it out. Get a Google Voice number. In the meantime, have them call that until you put net in the park. So little things like that, to where maybe books don't tell you, but you have to go through it, what you're talking about. And that's a risk in itself.
Yeah, definitely. Did you make any money on the first house?
Yes. I bought it for $146 and sold it for $289 or something. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
until
And you netted all the cash on that?
yeah, well, yeah, I did. Then I bought apartment building. No, yeah, so I sold that, bought an apartment building, and then started buying single families and apartment buildings after that.
Okay. Okay. So you went from the single family to apartment building. Like you have, so I never did single family, but my first deal was a 22 space mobile home park.
Okay.
And I do agree that like, in the beginning, you should probably cut your teeth on something a little smaller and close to you. And it sounds like you did that. You started with a single family and then kind of moved up.
Yes, I wish I would have. Well, not wish. If I could do it all over again, I would have saved money, probably, had investors and got into multifamily. But at the time, Arizona was just infancy, and you can actually buy a brand new house and then sell it when it's done and make $25,000, $30,000 just like that. So you can actually just do that 5 times a year and just make a great, some great income. I didn't do that, but it was that kind of a booming market.
Yeah. When was that? That was in the early 2000s.
Yeah, from like 2000s to 2006. Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like, it was like people were just giving away money. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when we're in these times, like I know we were buying a lot of deals in 2021. Like you don't realize it until in hindsight, we're like, man, how good was this? Because we could make 5 caps work really easily.
Right. Oh, yes. 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 You're like, this is great. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like we've got a deal that we paid 90, I don't know, 90 couple a site for. It's nice. It's very nice. And the rents should get pretty high in this area. But like I look at that deal now and I'm like, there's no way we could freaking make that work in this environment. We would not buy that deal.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny how that works. The hindsight. Yeah. The hindsight is Superman vision. Right.
Yeah, you can just kind of look back and see like, man, it was like, I don't know how we got some of these deals done, but
Yeah.
So we always have to, as entrepreneurs, we always have to adapt. We always have to kind of whatever kind of environment we're in, deals are sort of clunky anyways to get done. It's just like different levels of clunkiness at different areas of the process, I think, depending on what the market is.
Yeah.
But you got back into, so you got in single family and then in multifamily. How big was your first multifamily property?
First big one was like a fourplex.
Okay.
And then after that was commercial.
Got it. So then how did you find mobile home parks?
When I was a mortgage broker, I had a borrower of mine named Jerry. I did this refinance, and then we just became friends. And he says, "Have you ever looked at mobile home parks?" And this is in 2006, maybe 2005, 2006. I was like, "No," because I have the pretty stuff. I had the apartment buildings, I had the homes in the nice, suburban neighborhoods. I wasn't making a lot of money on the single family homes, but they were pretty, right? And then I found one that was phenomenal in 2012. And I didn't buy it because I didn't know anything about it, but it made me reach back out to Jerry on this subject and say, "Jerry, can you tell me a little bit more about these mobile home parks?" And he told me about them, and he introduced me to property management. There's actually a group of huge, I think they're like probably like the number 10, like the top 10 as far as park owners. They're huge in California. His name is Jim. He introduced me to Jim. And I was like, wow. He told me about people actually buying mobile home parks. So what I did was that I started reaching out, and this is actually, it's funny that you say that. So I start looking at like LoopNet and these sites that were just mobile home parks, and I seen one, and I should have bought it, but it was like 50 spaces in Colorado for $10,000 a space. A seller carry. I didn't know why I didn't buy that property, right?
Oh my God.
Yes, I know, right? But I was like, this is great. Let me learn about this space first. And it took me like 3 years to actually learn about this space because I wanted to know as much as possible before actually pulling the trigger. And that's how I got into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what year was that when you found that for 10,000 a space?
Oh, that was like 2015, 14, 15. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that worth today?
Oh my goodness. Probably worth maybe $90,000 a space.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, I always go back to this question, and I'd love to hear your input and take on it. And like, I always feel like I'm paying a little too much until hindsight, until a year later, I'm like, oh, we actually freaking crushed it on that deal. But in the moment, I'm like, oh, I paid a little bit too much. And so like some of these numbers that we're seeing now, obviously with 7.5%, 8% rates, unless you go agency, you can get a little lower. Like, are we going to be saying that like, damn, in 2024, May 31st, we should have bought everything because stuff's 150 a pad now? Like, what's your take on that?
Yes, I would say buy everything that makes sense and that has actually good terms on them. The reason why I say that, because we can look back on almost everything that we actually purchased. And remember your first car, maybe, or your second car, and you said, I probably paid a little bit too much money. I remember I bought my first brand new car was a 1998 Mustang, and it was like 17.8 or something like that. It was a V6. And I was like, that's a lot of money, right? Well, is it real? Like in 2020, and I bought it in 98, but $17,000 for a Mustang, it's relatively cheap compared to what they're going for now, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. I bought a loft in downtown Phoenix, and I bought it for 190 grand. And I thought that was actually a lot of money. My payment was $1,200 a month, right? I would kill to actually, have a place like that for $1,200 now. You know what I mean? Like that's cheap. So,
yeah. And I think so too. And I think for, people listening, like if you can make something pencil now at 8%, it's hard for me to see in 5 years that we'll be at 10%. I mean, we could be, but I don't know if that's possible. So I think if you can make something pencil now, I think you're gonna, that deal's gonna go really well for you. And if things swing back in our favor based on rates, you're gonna do really well, right?
Yeah, I made deals work at 10% before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I made them work before. I would just say, yeah, buy it if it makes sense. Buy it. I mean, so if let's say in the 80s, if a house was like $120,000, right? So that same house, whatever the value was, right? Let's just say it's worth $500,000 now. In hindsight, would you bought that house for 120,000, right? So in 94, if it was worth, 160,000, would you have bought it? Yes. And so it's I would say the definition of a hindsight. You just buy it.
Yeah, for sure. That doesn't mean I still can't make sense of the 3.5 cap in Florida that I got sent the other day. I still can't make sense of that. But there's other deals out there that we can make sense of that we should probably pull the trigger on moving forward. We'll be glad we did.
Yeah, was that retail? I mean, there's suckers born every day, so don't be a sucker, I would say, right? For anybody listening or watching this.
Yeah.
But they just throw out things like that. It doesn't make any sense. No, they're on 2020 prices.
Yeah, they're not real. They're not real sellers, in my opinion, because if they really, if a guy really wants to sell, it'll come down to reality. I mean, I'd sell the 3.5 cap. I know you would too.
Right. Absolutely. If I can get it, absolutely. But they're just throwing stuff on the wall. Hopefully it sticks, and so hopefully somebody buys that. I don't think it's the case. I hear about Florida properties, and it's hot market. But
yeah, for sure. So, Sonos Capital. So, tell us a little bit about that, about what you guys do. Like, what's your thesis, and when you guys got started, and then tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think we got started about 8 years ago, but
okay,
it was my own money, so it wasn't a fund like we actually have with investors that invest in our funds that actually buys mobile home parks. It was actually my capital, and I actually wanted to create I would say maybe a track record, not for myself because I didn't know I was going to create another fund too of Sonos Capital, but I actually wanted to have a track record of actually buying good property that made a great return.
Okay. And then so you started with your capital, and then like, what do you guys like your assets under management and things today? What does that?
Yeah. So what happened was I sold those assets under management, and I said, wow, I want to do this like 10 times is what I did by myself. And so I was like, how do I do that? And I reached out to a good friend of mine who owns a lot of real estate, he owned like 116 doors, like single family homes, just alone. It was just
Mhm.
crazy, right? And I said, right, so what do you think I should do? He says, well, yeah, create a fund
Mm.
that will protect you, protect your investors. And so that's why I created the fund.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
looking at probably the next, probably the next 12, 14 months to be, a few $100 million under asset management.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice. Nice. Awesome, man. Yeah, and I've been looking at, potentially doing a fund because we've, historically just done syndications.
Mhm.
And I do like the fund model. And I'm sure you've done both, but like, what is, in your opinion, you're doing funds, so obviously you like it. What's the biggest pro for you and why you keep doing those?
Yeah, funds actually spells it out versus syndication. So funds and I would say this kind of this scenario that happens actually in syndications is the kind of protection funds. So if you actually have a syndication to you just raise capital, and then let's say somebody passes a partner in that syndication, well, their spouse can say, hey, well, I want some of this capital because my spouse died, so it creates this pressure on the syndication. With a fund, it necessarily doesn't do that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because you're protected based on the fund that goes by its property.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. And then I guess the fact of you're basically, however big your funds are, you're doing that and then you're identifying all the properties that you go to buy, or do you have stuff identified before?
Yes and no. So it's a hybrid. So if we actually find something, we'll raise capital on that. But other than that, we're still raising capital within our fund to actually go buy because we're constantly looking at that mobile home parks. And the reason why we do that is because if we actually find a good deal, we actually want to pull the trigger and buy it. Then send seller, we have the cash, we can close quick. We're no tire kickers. We're serious about this, and people actually like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think the most, because I know, people are apprehensive of raising capital, and it can be a nerve-wracking process. There's no question about it. But what do you think is the most difficult part of it is question one. And then question two is, someone just starting, if they're looking to start raising capital, what do you think they should start doing in the beginning to make that process a little easier for them?
That's actually a good question. The three-part question. They're all good. Yes, but raising capital can be nerve-wracking. You actually have to get over that, kind of, swallow that not pride, but just swallow that feeling and just go do it. You probably have to get good at it, but before you get good at it, you actually have to suck, right? You have to be bad at it first, and getting through the bad that I suck at this. Once you get past that, then it's actually okay. But having a track record, having something saying this is actually what we're looking to buy, or this is a kind of a targeted property that we're looking to buy in the future and raise based on that, and actually have pitch decks, actually show your experience and show the reason why people actually want to invest in you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's a whole, you got to be able to communicate. Like if
Hmm.
you can't, if you can't communicate or communicate an idea to somebody, you should probably work with someone else who's better at it, because if you you can't do
Right.
that, then it's going to be difficult
Yeah.
in the first place. But it's not completely impossible to do, and you can make it happen.
Yeah. I would tell them that, or advise that, ask for referrals, but I wouldn't say don't come across like you actually need the capital. Come across that you actually just have a great idea or a great product, and you want to raise capital or teach people why this is a great deal, why you should invest in it. Not I need your money. It's almost like a separate from what your motive is.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Yes.
right, right, right. And then what is you guys like? What is your Sonos Capital like? What is y'all's deal criteria that you're looking for? Is there a specific type of deal in a specific market, or tell me a little bit about that?
Um, right now, I mean, the market is a little bit different, right? You have to be, put on your thinking cap and be a little bit more creative. But I would say we look for things like 8 to 10% cap rate, even if it's a 7% cap rate we still look at that, and the reason being is because maybe we can actually decrease expenses, increase the rent, and we can essentially turn it into an 8, 9, or a 10 cap. That's one, right? Uh, the area is actually important as well. I mean, I seen a park that was 100% full. I kid you not. I think it was 58 brand new houses, 100% occupied, 100%. So all 58 spaces had 58 brand new houses, and the park was 100% vacant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So on the outside, you're like, wow, I can actually just put people in those houses and make a killing. Well, no, because the population won't support,
Hmm.
the rents, et cetera. So you just have to be really educated on the market. And there's tools out there, but doing due diligence. Just because it's actually a nice park and you can get it for some great terms, the population may not be able to afford the rent and or the purchase price of the new home nor used home.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's super important. That's why I stay in larger markets, because I like if someone does leave or move out, or I got to convert a park owned home, like I know that someone's going to come in,
Yep.
and I like when we put test ads out and we get, hundreds of responses versus 10,
Right.
right? It just takes longer and it's
Mhm.
not fun.
No, not at all. So, and the larger market's great for you. There's a lot of competition, and if you can find them, yeah, great. And if you have to pay the higher price like you do, but you could actually get that opportunity in a larger market, I would advise to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So are you buying stuff at in place 8 caps, or you're like kind of after the first year you go in and you make it an 8
Oh, yeah. So I stay in like secondary markets as well.
cap?
Uh, Sometimes I can get them in what I was looking at. I think it was a 6 cap in a major market. So yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think the rents were 700 a month.
Yeah.
They could have went up to 8, but we'd actually have to do so much work on the park to actually, go from 7 to 8. So you can do that, but we look for things that are really mom and pops, really like they owned them for quite some time.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, those are the best
Yeah.
to buy from.
But if somebody bought it in 2016 or 2017, they're like, then it's tough. I mean, I looked at one that was really good, but they've done all the work. They upgraded the lines, the sewer pipes, all that great stuff. But you pay a premium for that.
Yeah, you do. You
Yeah.
do. And if you can find, I think there will be some opportunities where people, there was a lot of people that got into this business in 2020 and 2021 and thought it was going to be mailbox money. And then they run in and as you get into the operations of these things.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And it's much more difficult than you initially perceive it to be. And I've already seen, and my guys have found deals where people bought them in 2020,
Mhm.
2021. They're like, I got to get out of this thing now because
Right.
they asked for them,
Mhm.
and they thought they bought the mailbox, the passive mailbox money.
Yes, it's not a passive at all. I mean, I think I got a bill. We're demoing 6 park-owned homes, and I think I got a bill for 34,000 to demo them. Of course, it was a high bid, but I mean, you just have to have that capital or have that foresight to say, I'm going in, and these are my expenses.
Yeah. 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 I think that's a good point too. Like, estimating your CapEx when you go into these deals. I see a lot of new investors. They're basically the cash they're bringing to close is I've seen people only like, hey, Derek, they'll ask me about a deal. And I'm like, okay, show me how you're looking at a deal.
Mhm.
They're only bringing the cash that the bank is going to require, the seller is going to require as a down payment, not thinking about any closing costs. And I'm like, hey, this is a value add property. Like, is there any tree work? You got any homes that need to be demoed there? Is
Yeah.
there any like other stuff that you have to do?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you touch on that. How important is it to really know the intricacies of the deal so you can properly estimate your CapEx going in?
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to, because if not, you'll be doing capital calls, or you'll just be giving it trying to sell it. It's really important. I mean, what about the deposits for the utilities when you actually turn
Mm.
that on? What about the taxes, the back taxes on park-owned homes? What
Mm,
about the you know the trash? So the trash service, those things. There's just a lot of work that you actually have to do. It's not single family by no means. It's bigger. So you actually have to do a lot of due diligence. The park is great, but just don't even, I would say, don't even look at the park. Just pretend like the physical park doesn't exist.
mhm.
The park exists on paper, and you have to figure out it on paper. And once you figure it out on paper, then you actually you can look at the physical aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that because that's the proper sequence of events, because if it doesn't work on paper, it almost really doesn't matter what's on site. So you have to check if it works on paper, and then, obviously do your on-site due diligence and things, but you have to, know what to look for, because this stuff can get expensive, especially, private utilities, electric poles, it's expensive and a pain if you have to pull permits. Do you guys buy private utilities?
I have, yeah, absolutely. It did well, but even if it's private, you still gotta, if it's a 50 amp, you got to change it to a 200 amp. That costs money. I think I got a bill today for each part for setup and all that great stuff. I think it was like $17,000 each
Mm,
home. So I mean, it gets up there.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah, and do you guys do infill projects at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
So if it requires that we actually put in new homes, and we just do new homes. We're a dealer, so I think, you know I don't know if I should be saying this, but I guess I don't care. If you can get a 3-bedroom home for 50 grand brand new, it doesn't make any sense to actually go used, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's actually just being a dealer, and you're into it for, I would say with yeah, our demo, let's just say our demos, or not our demo, but our demo was 3 grand to tear down that house. Plus the setup was 17. So we're into it for, 70 grand, 72,000 with commissions. And we're probably going to sell that home for, 74.9. Right. So we're not making money. We're just actually breaking even, because we want to sell a house. So
Right.
things like that. But if you can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house brand new for $75,000, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. And will you guys do any like payment options with them? Are you doing any financing on that, or is it just they're ripping a check for 75 grand?
The buyer will get financing through, let's say, 21st Century or other banks or brokers in the area.
Yeah. Got it.
Zippy, Triad, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what will you guys get in lot rent for a place like that?
We'll get $400 a month in lot rent, and their payment on that with $75,000 usually is like 10% down. So they're at like $900 a month total.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's relatively cheap, considering it's actually cheaper to buy a house from us than the actual rent, because we do have a 1997 3-bedroom, 2-bath Clayton home that somebody spent $1,200 a month for.
Mm, got it. Got it. Yeah, it's it's interesting. I've actually, we've historically just done used homes. We've never done new homes, just because the economics actually work better for used in the markets that we're in.
Mhm.
But I don't buy parks based on infill, because I know how difficult it is. It's
Mhm.
not easy to do,
Right.
and I'd rather just buy something that's already there. But we've infilled homes, and we've got the parks we have under contract. I think we've got maybe 7 or 8 vacant lots that we're planning to fill,
Mhm.
with various strategies. But it's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard. Like the permitting, like takes a long time.
Yeah, no, it does. And or you pay somebody for it. With this one, this would actually. And I tried used homes, and I'm like, "Nah." I mean, it's all about the price point, and I don't know what
Yep.
the history is on that used home. So I'd rather, and that's a nice. We're talking about a nice 3-bedroom, 9-foot ceilings, recessed lightings, real
Mm,
hardwood floors. That's actually the top of the line for 74. But
yeah.
our bottom 2-bedroom, I think, is like 50 grand or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, especially if you're working with them and you can kind of get all your money back for it at once. In some of the bigger markets, we'll see people, I mean, stroke checks for that.
Oh yeah. Oh
Crazy.
yeah. Yeah. It's surprising. There's actually money in mobile home parks or mobile homes. I would say there's, money in mobile home parks. But I had homes to where people just I sold them for 15 grand and people would just come in with just cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing that surprised me when we in 2021 when we bought a bunch of stuff and we were selling a bunch of park owned homes. We didn't even factor it in, like the amount that we would sell the homes for. And we were just so surprised at what people would pay. I mean, we were getting checks for, like you said, 10 grand, 15 grand, 20, 25 grand in some of these cases. And I was just extremely surprised. Very, very surprised because we are still the cheapest place in town.
Mhm.
And, in some of the markets we're in, a 2-bedroom apartments, $2,300, like, and anything that's affordable, it's full. I mean, you can't get into it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What markets are you in?
Tampa, Orlando, Ocala, like
Yeah.
those markets in Florida, Brevard County area.
Yeah, you could do really well with used because if they're using it's the rents are that high in
Yeah.
buildings, yeah, people would love that stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, as I said before, I love, like, we know if, like, I put a test ad out for something, I'm going to get a ton of inquiries on that. It's going to be huge. So, but yeah, what else? So what's next for Sonos Capital? You're going to keep scaling. You're going to keep, what's next?
Yeah, I mean, I think RV parks are doing well. I'm not into RV parks, but I'm actually, looking at probably buying RV parks and actually putting park model homes in those, like 400 square feet. People are actually buying those.
Yeah.
Those relatively cheap. I might do that on a park near the Grand Canyon. I think we can do well on that. Yeah, I think people living in RVs, but they're paying $1,000 a month in rent. Doesn't make any sense, right?
Right.
Uh, destination area. But if you can buy a park model for 40 grand and you can still get $1,000 a month in rent, lot rent, and still makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, those numbers work all day. That's why I struggle with sometimes, like, but in your case, if you're selling the home outright, you're paying 70 grand for a home, but then you're selling it, so you're getting all your money back. Kind of doesn't matter what the rent is you get. But if you're buying it and you're not, and you're only getting $400 in lot rent, then it's like, why are we doing this?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we sell our stuff. Yeah. So things like that. What else? What else we're looking at? Yeah, just parks in general.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. Any before we head out here, I mean, is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with here? Words of wisdom, future prognostication on what's going to happen in the industry, anything?
Yeah, actually, I do a keynote speak in June, mid-June for mobile home parks and RV parks. So we'll probably have to do an update on that. But as far as it's actually going to be a great market for the future to come. And you and I are actually in parks, so your listeners could say, are Walter and Derek going to gobble everything up? No, it's not like that. There's so much opportunity out there. You'll encounter competition, but their buy box will be different from your buy box, and vice versa. And they just it might be timing. It might be the seller didn't like that person, that person's personality. The seller didn't pick up the phone, and then you approach them and you get the opportunity. So there's still opportunity out there, and I would say don't get discouraged with not finding a park for a few months, or don't get discouraged if you can't raise a capital. Just keep going.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great because you're going to run into that. I was talking to a guy earlier and we were having some trouble getting on here, and he was like, yeah, and there's a saying in his religion where I forget exactly, so I'm paraphrasing, but if it's not hard and there's not obstacles, then it's probably not worth doing, right? And so, like, when you start out here, like, you're not going to find a deal tomorrow. Maybe you could get lucky and do that. It's not entirely impossible, but you're going to scratch and claw and you're going to grind. I mean, there's no question about it. And, you could say that, oh, there's nothing to buy in the market because the market's getting more saturated now. But I couldn't disagree more. still, like, I don't know. There's no other asset class that's still as fragmented as mobile home parks.
No,
Like,
it's bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, we bought a park. They're like, we bought it, and I was like, can you actually? The previous owner, I'm like, can you actually collect rent? Because everything's on like pen and paper, and I have
of
no
course.
idea how to, decipher your system that you had for decades. I just don't know how you do it, right? And then he carries over balances, and it's just weird, right? So you'll come across that, and you want to put technology in, let's say Rent Manager, Appfolio, or whatever property management you want to software you want to use, but you're still coming in contact with pen and paper owners.
Yeah. I mean, I've got, well, one of the deals that I have now, it's all pen and paper, the rent roll, the financials, everything.
Yes, right.
And then I have another one that they're even using Rent Manager, and I just can't make sense of what they're doing. Like, I'm like, this might as well be on pen and paper.
Yeah, it's like you're reading somebody else's handwriting, or like you're looking at them do their own homework. It's confusing to you, right? And so, with that being said, there's still opportunity, 100%. And I would say there's still, it's hard work, but there's still a thing called luck, right? So the hard work, the harder you work, the luckier you get. You just run into just different opportunities. I don't know anyone that's actually worked super hard and didn't get lucky in some aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. When I used to sell insurance, like someone's production, I had a team of 100 salespeople. And so their production was mainly contingent upon the number of calls that they made, how much energy they exerted
Yeah.
into the marketplace. Right. And, I'd get people like, oh, well, I'm trying, but I'm not getting anything. I'm like, bullshit. You're
Right.
lying. You're not working hard enough.
Right. Yeah. And I don't believe in the word try. Like I say that. I was like, I don't use that word try. I try not to, because I just used it right now. But I say, because I don't try to go to the mailbox. I don't try to
No.
open the refrigerator. I just do it. Right. You just do
Mhm.
it. Yeah. And so that's how I look at it. In parks, you do it. If you want to do mailers, great. If you actually want to reach out to and call sellers, that's what you do. You don't try to do it, you just do it. And there's going to be some learning curves. There's going to be, you're right, you're going to claw, and that's what builds your experience, and that's what builds your knowledge, and that's what builds, I would say, your experience to actually come on a podcast or teach somebody else to actually invest as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I used to, so in the sales office too, anybody that said the word try, I would just freaking axe them completely. I'd be like, no, 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 no. We're not going to try. We're
We
going to
just
go freaking do it.
we just do it. So that's it. Yeah. I don't try to go to the gym. That doesn't even make any sense. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't. Are you a gym guy?
Yeah. I go every day.
Yeah. Same. What kind of workouts you do?
Like literally every day. I usually do. So I run to the gym. Actually,
Yeah.
I do. And then I work out, and then I run back. Right.
Nice.
And every day, so I'll do like chest one day, arms one day, back one day, legs one day, and just rotate them every. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a believer. I go to the gym every day too, because like, dude, I don't need a day break because when I don't go, I feel like shit.
Yeah. Oh,
To be
100%.
honest.
Right.
And two, like if I'm working biceps or something on Saturday, it doesn't mean I can't work legs on Sunday. Like I'm not overworking anything.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels good. And you're just not working. And if you miss a day, let's just say you miss your back day or your arms day, it throws you off. Like your body.
Sure.
Yeah. So even if you didn't go 7 days a week that week, you went 6, it still throws you off. And I just think it's my only body, and I like to treat it as such.
Yeah. Amen to that. I think it's super, super important.
And it helps with what we do as well. It gives you, I would say it has the capability to actually give you endurance and clarity.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I do a lot of like HIIT training and stuff too. And so that to me, I'll do a 20 or 30-minute workout that my heart rate, peaks at 180, 181. So I like that because it sucks. And it's definitely going to be the hardest thing I do that day.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me run, because I'm like, I got to get back to the office, so I got to run faster from the gym to my house to get dressed, and then so it helps, absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. Well, I love that, Walter. And so where can people find you if they wanna reach out?
Yeah, Walter at Sonos, Sonos Capital.com, or you can call our office at 480-674-2035.
Awesome, Walter. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on, and if you're in Florida, definitely give me a buzz, man. Would love to catch up, and if I'm out your way, which I actually may be, in a few months, I'd love to hook up in person.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely look you up if I'm ever in Florida, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of the MHP Show. We will see you all next week. Please like and subscribe and leave a positive comment. Like, I need to do a show of dumb comments that people leave on posts and stuff. So you can leave those too, but leave a good comment and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.